Mark Braverman, he is the author of Fatal Embrace, Christians, Jews, and the Search for Peace in the Holy Land. Dr. Braverman, great to have you on the program.
Hi, it's great to be here.
All right, let's get started. You know, your family's been involved in Israel for a long time. You worked on a kibbutz when you were younger, but now you're coming out and saying the treatment of the Palestinians is wrong. What led to that revelation for you?
Well, actually going there and seeing the occupation. You know, I had, as you said, I had lived in Israel and had been there many times, and was sort of raised on the whole Zionist dream and the Zionist romance, but I had never actually seen what was going on in the territories that had been occupied in 1967, and that led me also down the road of revisiting the narrative that I'd been taught as a kid about the founding of the state in '48, and so I also discovered the other narrative of the dispossession of the Palestinians at that point in Israel's history.
And what's the state of the occupied territories now? You know, how does the blockade affect Gaza? What's the situation in the West Bank?
Well, they're somewhat different, although they're both territory that was taken in war. Israel has officially and unilaterally withdrawn from Gaza, but it still has total control over the borders of that territory. And so, basically, what you have there now is a siege and a ghetto that's being denied basic supplies and health supplies and ability to conduct commerce and trade. So Gaza is a humanitarian disaster in a case of collective punishment because of the election of Hamas, which Israel doesn't agree with, and in fact the United States has on its list of terrorist organizations. The West Bank is still occupied territory. Israel took it in 1967, continues to occupy the territory. The situation there is that it's being illegally colonized. It's been illegally settled by Israeli citizens in violation of international law, and a whole system of restricted roads and military and economic control has been imposed on the Palestinians, about 4 million Palestinians who live in the West Bank.
Dr. Braverman, now, when some people in America say the same things you're saying right now on this show, they are immediately branded anti-Israel and at times anti-Semitic. Now, you're Jewish, so the anti-Semitic thing isn't going to stick as well. But why is your position not anti-Israel in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I call myself one of the most pro-Israel people I know. I think it's becoming increasingly clear to people that Israel's policies are not only illegal and an abrogation of basic human rights, which should not stand in the 21st century, but that it's very bad for Israel. It's impoverishing the society, despite the so-called boom. It's not really distributed equally throughout the population. The entire society is militarized. You know, I've seen my own family, and I use that broadly. You know, the cousins and sons and daughters and grandchildren of my family members in Israel at those checkpoints, mistreating and humiliating Palestinians. It's a very disturbed society, Israelis who really deserve to be allowed to recover from I mean, the reason Israel is there is that Jews about 110, 150 years ago decided that they needed a country of their own because they just weren't doing very well in Europe, and I understand that sentiment, and I understand that was the genesis of political Zionism. But, you know, if you've been traumatized and you've been kicked around and you've been marginalized and, frankly, slaughtered, the thing to do is not to put people in a sealed environment, build walls around them, tell them everyone around them wants to kill them, and that the world is dangerous. They will never recover from that identity of victimization and that sense of fear. What really, really hit me when I finally went across to the Palestinian territories and met the Palestinian people was that, contrary to what I had been taught as a kid, these were not bad people. They did not hate me. They did not want to kill me. They didn't want to throw me into the sea. They didn't want to be the next Hitler. All they wanted was to be treated fairly. And I learned that we had come to their shores and taken their land. And so when you see Palestinian resistance, most of it nonviolent, some of it violent, you have to understand that as a popular resistance movement against occupation and against colonization.
We're talking to Mark Braverman. He is the author of Fatal Embrace, Christians, Jews, and the Search for Peace in the Holy Land. So, Dr. Braverman, what do you think leads to peace in the Holy Land? What should Israel do to protect itself, in a matter of speaking, to improve itself, and also, of course, to help the Palestinians? What do you think is the best solution?
Well, I mean, it's all the same. I mean, if Israel wants peace, and if Israel, as you say, wants to protect itself, then you have to remove the root cause of the sense of threat and of the violence that Israel has suffered. And it has suffered violence, and it has suffered attempts to terrorize the population. This is popular resistance. That's all they've got. You know, all the rockets, the so-called rockets that rain down from Lebanon and from Gaza, they haven't really threatened Israel. They haven't killed very many people, and they don't threaten the security of the state. But they do terrorize people, and they also give the government of Israel a pretext to continue their own militaristic and defensive posture. If there's going to be peace, then the Israeli government and the Israeli people need to learn to share the territory. I frankly think that even though the idea of a separate Jewish state might have seemed like a good idea back in the 19th century, it's not a good idea now. In fact, the early Zionists didn't necessarily say feel that there had to be a separate Jewish state run by Jews only for Jews, which is what Israel turned into. They talked about a homeland. They talked about a place to settle. And they finally gravitated toward Palestine because of sentimental reasons. There's no reason why that territory can't be shared. There's no reason why there has to be a Jewish majority. Jews think so because they feel that the world is against them.
But so, Dr. Braverman, you're not even saying two-state. You're saying one state, include Palestinians, and let everybody vote?
Yeah. Look, I think what's on the table is two states. I think we're going to see some sort of a partition. That's going to be the next step. If it's done fairly, it could provide a stable situation for a while. But ultimately, the demographics are against the idea of a separate Jewish state. It's already about 50-50 if you take all of Gaza, all of the West Bank, and all of Israel. They're better than many Arabs.
But you know what? Real quick in the time that we have left, it's not realistic. There's no way they're going to do one state.
No, I don't think that's going to happen next. I think what's going to happen next is you're going to have some sort of partition. It's going to be called two states. And they're going to draw borders, and they're going to figure it all out. And they've basically got it all figured out. There's something called they've got the plans basically already on the table. The question is it going to be a fair shake for the Palestinians? If Israel ends up getting pretty much most of what it's already taken in terms of the roads and the settlement blocks and all of that, it's not going to be fair. There will not be a contiguous Palestinian state. And I'm not so sure that popular resistance is going to cease and peace is going to happen.
Well, Dr. Braverman, we got a bad cycle here. So final question for you. A lot of Israelis will say, hey, listen, we turned over the Gaza Strip, and what we got in return was rocket fire. So why does it make any sense to go with your plan and turn over the West Bank when the whole idea was peace for land, but if we give them the land and we don't get peace, that's a raw deal for us.
Hey, if you turn over the West Bank like you turned over the Gaza Strip, there's no way you're going to have peace because Israel continues to maintain control of the Gaza, and it's a prison. And if you take a look at the system of control that's been established in the West Bank, it's apartheid. And that's the system that's in place now. If those facts on the ground are allowed to be legitimized, I don't care if they call it one state or two states, or I don't care if they call it a banana, it's not going to work.
So how about 1967 borders, that deal that you're talking about that's
already
been drawn up?
Yeah, but that's a dream. It'll never happen. People are in fantasy land. If you take a look at the map now, and if you take a look at the wall, the separation barrier that's been constructed, that's your new border with some changes. 67 is over. It's absolutely over. It will never happen.
So you're not very hopeful then, because if they stick with the wall,
I'm not real optimistic about what's going to happen.
The resistance continues, and then people take that as a rejection of what happened.
That's right. And then again, the Palestinians again will have been the rejectionists, and the Israelis will again be presented as the ones who look for peace. That's why it's really important for Americans to be educated about the real facts of the situation, so that we can advocate through our government for a fair shake. That's the most pro-Israel thing that we can do.
All right, Dr. Mark Braverman, author of Fatal Embrace, thank you so much for joining us on the Young Turks.